The Edmonton Oilers may have dodged a major bullet as free agent Brandon Saad decided not to sign with the team all that more today on Oilers Digest as we also recap last night's game against the Detroit Red Wings. But first things first, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, make sure you do so. We are exactly 40 subscribers off of 2,700 on the road to 3,000. If you haven't subscribed already, folks, make sure you do so for any and all Oiler news. Oilers Digest is the place to be. And Rogers Place was the place to be last night with wait. Shootouts are still a thing. Yes, last night the Edmonton Oilers participated in their first shootout in almost 11 months since March of 2024 against the Buffalo Sabres, and they looked like they'd never played in a shootout ever in their career as the Detroit Red Wings took this one 3-2. The Oilers, yes, blowing a 2-goal lead to this Red Wings team who has been dynamite under their new coach Todd McLellan since the Christmas break there, with Leon Draisaitl with his leading 36th goal on the power play coming 6 minutes into the first period. Jeff Skinner, his 9th goal of the year, assisted by Hyman and Henrique there. Jeff Skinner in and out of the lineup, but still mustering 9 goals. That is extremely impressive for a former 40-goal scorer. But the Red Wings, the Oilers fall asleep, and the Red Wings capitalize very quickly here in a span of 3 minutes. Michael Rasmussen in Dylan Larkin. Rasmussen from a very weird deflection there, and then Dylan Larkin on a breakaway, making it 2-2. There was no scoring in the third period or overtime. Of course, in the overtime period, the Edmonton Oilers did have the momentum, and Zach Hyman called on a very soft interference call, but the Oilers did kill off that PK there, and it brought us to the shootout with the Wings winning this one from goals from Lucas Raymond and Dylan Larkin. Meanwhile, Connor McDavid with a very lackluster backhand attempt, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins straight up just failing to shoot there. So the Oilers losing a very winnable game. Shots on goal 47-34 in favor of the Oilers. Of course, in net last night was not Cam Talbot, it was Alex Lyon, as he was the starter named very late before the game last night in favor of Cam Talbot, who'd started the Red Wings last, I want to say, 4 or 5 games prior to this one. But Alex Lyon coming in relief there in stealing this one for the Detroit Red Wings. The Red Wings also winning 40 faceoffs compared to Edmonton's 33. The Oilers, making the Wings go 0 for 3 on their power plays, but the Oilers only capitalizing on one of their power plays. A quarter, we should say here. But Stuart Skinner, of course, many are, painting the loss on him. I don't think so, even though the Red Wings, did score, those 2 quick goals in a span of 3 minutes. It was a total letdown from the team in front of him, pretty much sleepwalking through a majority of that second period. But from Kris Knoblauch here, defending his starting netminder. Skins made some really big saves, especially on the penalty kill. The one in the third period where he sticks out his pad on Dylan Larkin. You need good goaltending, and we've been getting it from both of our guys, especially Calvin Pickard being the backup, Stu especially, because he's been getting the majority of the starts. And tonight was an excellent night from him, and that it was. Of course, we wouldn't have gotten overtime without Stuart Skinner. Phenomenal night from him. It's not too often you see a goalie with a 941 save percentage lose the game, because the other goalie has a 957 with Alex Lyon with 45 saves on 47 shots. Majority of that was Alex Lyon being tremendous. In the other half of that, the Oilers straight up, not finishing on their chances. That's something that's, bit them many times in the past there, where the Oilers are getting goaltending, but they just can't finish, and you can't expect, Stuart Skinner to score goals every night, even though he did do it in his junior career with the Swift current Broncos. But looking at the hockey stat chart here, Evan Bouchard, good bounce back game here. Zach Hyman, again, another good game from him. Jeff Skinner, easily one of the best Oiler forwards on the ice last night, and easily his most complete game of the season so far, with Darnell Nurse being the best Oiler defenseman on the ice. I could go on and on, but, John Klingberg at the bottom. With no context, you could say that he had a really bad game last night. But, the guy hasn't played since November 2023. So, again, he did look a little bit rusty. Yeah, -1, had a couple giveaways. I think just one giveaway, to be exact. But still, you can't expect the world from a guy who hasn't played in that long, coming off double hip resurfacing injury. But you know what is a very uncharacteristic? Again, Mattias Ekholm coming off the illness, or still having the illness, I should say. But again, not a very, very good game from him last night, but he's been one of the Oilers' most consistent defensemen since his arrival from the trade deadline in 2023. So sometimes you can cut him some slack alongside with Connor McDavid. There's been so many times where McDavid has, dragged this team to win. Sure, yeah, you could expect him to, shoot a little more, but when you have Leon Draisaitl on the team as well, you don't really have to worry that much because Draisaitl has his back in and out. But with John Klingberg making his debut last night, he had some thoughts on his game. He said, "This is my first game. I'm going to build on every game, and I want to be at my best in the spring. But at the same time, I'm going to take steps every game here. And I think with the skill this team has, I'm going to fit in pretty good with how they play with the puck. And of course, the star players for the Oilers, they love that puck-moving defenseman who can transition the puck with ease up the ice. Of course, Evan Bouchard really, really good at that, and of course, that's why Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl love playing with him. But looking at the deep pairs last night, of course, wasn't a very bad game for the Oilers. It was just again a very winnable game, and they sleptwalked through a majority of the second period, and that killed them in the end here with Ekholm in Klingberg, who was, Ekholm was normally with Evan Bouchard, but Ekholm, Kris Knoblauch, and Paul Coffey thought, for his first game, put him with, a rocking chair defenseman there who plays the game relatively confidently, and that's exactly what they did. And I think it worked out in the long run there with Darnell Nurse and Evan Bouchard. Of course, many are saying that would be, a very interesting D pair, but it could work. And then Brett Kulak and Ty Emberson there, very quiet game from the both of them, but if you're playing a quiet game as a defenseman, you are doing things very, very correctly. And Ty Emberson, I'm loving with each and every game he plays, he's becoming more and more solid on the back end there. But looking at the forward lines here with that second line of Arvidsson, Draisaitl, in Podkolzin, underlying stats pretty good, but sooner or later I'd like Victor Arvidsson to start producing. He makes $4 million, and we brought him over, to finish alongside Leon Draisaitl. They brought him over for his finishing, but again, not really a whole lot. But I can cut Vasily Podkolzin some slack here because, again, he does all the little things very well. Goes into the corner, digs the puck out, finds Draisaitl, doesn't try and do anything cute, but he just does the right things. But Arvidsson, again, expect a little more out of them. And then Nugent-Hopkins, McDavid, and Connor Brown, again, fairly solid, although Connor Brown, I think, is more better suited for the bottom six. And then Yamark, Philp, and Perry, again, not a bad showing by the forwards last night, but again, the small period in the second period, I'll go, time and time again, it just ended up being snake bitten for the Oilers, with Noah Philp going 1 for 5 on the draw last night. But I mean, he's played less than 10 NHL games, so there's always room to grow for him on the face-off dot. I mean, this is his first NHL season. Again, you can't expect anything and everything out of the fourth line center, but I think the Oilers could potentially look for a fourth line center at the deadline. But again, from the natural stat trick chart here, all the other three periods, the first period, the third period, and overtime for the Oilers, again, in their favor, but it was just the second period again that killed him. And Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, again, for some final thoughts on how the Oilers played last night and comparing themselves to the Wings. He said they're a pretty fast team, and I think we gave them a little too many opportunities to play fast and spring each other on odd man rushes, and a couple of breakaways to capitalize one. But overall, we played an all right game. Just a bit of a stretch there where we gave them too many easy opportunities. Of course, it doesn't get any easier for the Edmonton Oilers as the Detroit Red Wings are on a stretch, but their next opponent is also from the Atlantic Division. Again, the Atlantic, very, very strong this year. And that opponent, you should ask, the Toronto Maple Leafs on Hockey Night in Canada, 6 o'clock Central, 5 o'clock Mountain. Yes, the first game of the doubleheader on Hockey Night in Canada. Matthews, McDavid, I mean, all eyes should be on that one, especially as we're leading up to the Four Nations face-off with Canada facing off against the USA. Should be a good one, not just here, but also in February when those two countries face off with each other. And the lines and pairings at practice this morning here from Daniel Nugent-Hopkins of The Athletic. Very interesting how this one is shaking up here with Draisaitl and McDavid in Perry. Of course, Knoblauch not hesitating to put Draisaitl and McDavid together when he can, next to Corey Perry. Of course, you saw them play a little bit last night, and Knoblauch thinks, hey, maybe this could be something they could run for a little while longer. And Arvidsson, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and Zach Hyman, Vasily Podkolzin, Adam Henrique, and Connor Brown. And Jeff Skinner, after one of his best games of the season, he's put back on the fourth line next to Janmark in cap. And I don't know what Jeff Skinner has to do to get any top six time, but your guess is just as good as mine, with no Phillip being the extra forward. And on the back end, Darnell Nurse and Evan Bouchard, Brett Kulak and Ty Emberson, and Troy Stetcher. And Matisse Ekholm still battling his illness next to John Klingberg. They were both absent. Skinner and Pickard both at practice today. And from Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet here, some good news regarding the cap here for the Edmonton Oilers is, yes, we still have the McDavid and Bouchard extensions to look forward to, but next year, the 2025-26 season, the cap jumping up to $95.5 million, or estimated to be $95.5 million, and then jumping up $9 more million in 26-27 with 104, and then 2027-28 with 113. Now that's the good news, but the bad news, unfortunately, the Oilers lost out on Brandon Saad to the Vegas Golden Knights. Yes, the Vegas Golden Knights did sign him 1 year, $1 million prorated, 1.3 prorated. I don't know what the exact contract details are, but Vegas are the villains of the league, getting Brandon Saad. But the final four teams, Edmonton was not listed in the final four teams in the running for Brandon Saad, despite all the reports earlier this week, which kind of sucks, but the Oilers may have dodged a bullet. They could go for something at the trade deadline to bolster either their top or bottom six, preferably, at the center spot. Of course, if Noah Phillip doesn't work out at the 4C, you can move him to the left side. And they also have Evander Kane to look forward to coming back in the playoffs. Sure, depth is nice, but also making your opportunities a little more open, and getting a bigger fish at the trade deadline instead of plugging holes with veteran depth wingers who may or may not still have it, despite what you think he's done with the St. Louis Blues. Sure, yeah, he might be, a little bit uninterested, playing in St. Louis and on that not very good team. But again, it would have been low risk, high reward, but the Oilers may have dodged a bullet. That is it for today's episode. Let me know what you think about, the Oilers losing out on Brandon Saad, and your thoughts on the lines from practice in last night's game. I'm sure you have a lot to say about what the Oilers are currently doing, and I'm sure you will all be excited for tomorrow's game against the Maple Leafs. Have yourselves a fantastic weekend. Enjoy the game tomorrow, folks. Take care. Let's go Oilers. I'm Matt.